I will call to order the Tuesday, October 6th meeting of the Monmouth City Council. And we will start with our fabulous city recorder, Phyllis Bowman, with the roll call, please.
Councillor Belts.
This conference will now be recorded.
Here. Councillor Carey.
Here.
Councillor Lopez.
Here.
Councillor Sharmer. Here. Councillor Schinkel.
Here.
Councillor Silbernagel.
Here.
Mayor Mayor Coons. Good grief.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Whoa.
Okay, flashback. Mayor Coons is present.
All right, good.
So the flag salute. And John Kerry, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, and nice job for the graphics department there, Laurel.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Sharmer. Oh, did we get the?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. This evening, our agenda consists of a regular meeting and business meeting for the City Council, and then a regular meeting for the Urban Renewal Agency. And we will have public comments this evening. We have someone in the room, so I will share that. Comments from the community are entertained at a time designated under citizens' comments. If you wish to speak to the council here in the room, we ask that people fill out a comment card. If you are online, please open the chat bubble in the upper right of your screen and type to Phyllis Bowman your name and the topic to which you wish to speak. Speakers' comments are limited to 3 minutes, but the council welcomes additional information in writing. And typically the comments are just taken under advisement to allow time for the council to review an issue. However, mayor or councilors may ask the speaker for additional information or may convey some information that addresses the comment. Please note on this if you would like additional follow-up information, but we appreciate those attending the Monmouth City Council this evening. And we start off with our consent agenda. If you will see, that includes the minutes of the council meeting of September 15th. Those were included in the packet. And unless there are corrections or additions, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Sharmer. And Councillor Belts with the second on that. And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, seeing none, thank you, Phyllis, for providing those for us. I'm going to start off with, for Mayor's report this evening, very brief. If you've been down Main Street, you'll see another new business opening. I was given a preview of the Dry Station Tap House or Tap Station, the new pub that is going in on the corner of Main and Knox. So traditional longtime home of Nelson Oil, the gas station, and then a variety of businesses, but going to be a very fun place with great outdoor seating. They've turned the old island out where the pumps used to be into seating with a fire feature, and they're going to have a couple of food trucks there. So it will be another fun gathering spot for the community, and can't wait. They should be opening soon. So, and I think if we approve a liquor license for them tonight, they'll be alcohol at that establishment. So other than that, we do have a couple of applications for boards and commissions that were submitted. One is for the budget committee, and I'm going to kind of hold off on that. We have a couple months before the budget committee meets, and we do need to put out an all call and see if we can get some other members because we have quite a few openings for that. But the other application, if you had a chance to look, was an application from Sylvia Alva, and Sylvia would like to join the library board. Sylvia is a longtime resident of Monmouth and also a longtime volunteer of the library. Her husband was an esteemed professor out at Oregon College of Education, and he has recently passed away, unfortunately. Charles Alva was quite a character for those of us who've known him, and I'm really thrilled that Sylvia would be interested in joining our library board. I know she'd bring a lot to the positions. So if I can entertain a motion for the appointment of Sylvia Alva to the library board.
So I move that we appoint Sylvia Alba, sorry, say her last name again, please, Cece. Alba. Sylvia Alba to the library board.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Belts and Councillor Silbernagel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Thank you very much. So that will help our library board. I think they still have a couple other openings. Yes, Roxanne is nodding her head at that. So if anyone would like to continue to join that or our other boards, we do enjoy those volunteers. Now that those groups are meeting again, it'd be great to have folks join in. So that brings us to reports of council representatives on boards and commissions. And do we have any of those reports? Councillor Carey.
I would just sort of announce, I guess, that the Planning Commission will meet tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. virtually, and the primary agenda item is one that we've talked about for some time, and that has to do with a discussion of the code, or review of our code, building codes, and so on, that we applied for a grant for, and we have been awarded that. So that will begin sort of an introductory meeting tomorrow night. So that'll be an ongoing process. So there'll be more reports on it. But for those of you that are wondering how that was progressing, that first meeting is tomorrow night. And just a brief word on our economic development strategic planning group. Chad mentioned it in his mayor's or his city manager notes, but we've had two meetings. We're working on a draft vision and mission statement, and while that has been interesting to do in a virtual sense, we've had really good discussions. I think the group is beginning to develop some cohesion and some free exchange of ideas. I'd welcome, Madam Mayor, your comment, or Roxanne's, or Chad's for that matter. But I feel like that's really moving in the right direction. We're on a kind of a crunchy timeline, but people seem to be digging in and getting after it. So that's a good thing. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really have anything to add, and I think Chad may in his manager's report, but agreed, we've got some great people doing some really good thinking, both about data information and then sort of really that bigger picture vision. I think I'm very excited about a potential product. Any other board and commission reports before we go? Yes, Councillor Belts.
I just wanted to give you an update real quick from the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. There has been a separate committee, the Executive Director Search Committee, that's been meeting pretty regularly. We've narrowed down a candidate pool of some 30 odd people, narrowed it down to a tier 1, tier 2, and the Renata will be reaching out, or Denise will be reaching out to a certain group of individuals that we've selected to do Zoom meetings first, or video conference meetings first, and then we'll decide from that how to narrow it down to some number of candidates to actually bring into Salem. And the intent is to actually have them meet with a group in Salem, but also perhaps meet with a group in Polk County and Yamhill County as well. So it will be similar to our city manager search. Make sure that they see the region they're going to be in, but more later.
That's great. Thank you. Any others? And Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some reports from Minette. Minette has met since our last council meeting, and amongst other things, we went over the recent financials and approved the debt service forecast contribution. Additionally, I'd like to note that we recently, just last night, completed some work on some cables that impacted a section of town. There was a planned service outage beginning at midnight last night that then completed in the wee hours of the morning. This has to do with some upgrades that were being done, and I would encourage anyone that is having problems with their units to just remember to power cycle the router, and if that doesn't resolve it, then to please reach out to Minette. I do not have any reports of issues as of yet, and I woke up, my house was one that was impacted. I woke up this morning, everything was working just fine. But should anyone have any lingering issues, that power cycling the router generally is the first step. Also, I wanted to call attention to the community broadband project. This is something that was spearheaded by Minette, and also really initiated by the City of Independence with some support from some of their staff. And this is to establish and pay for internet connections for underserved students in Independence and Monmouth through December 2020. This does have to do with CARES Act funding, and in addition to individual service, this also establishes Wi-Fi hotspots in a number of areas around town. I know this is an ongoing project, and I will say that if you are financially impacted and receiving other governmental subsidies, to please reach out to see if you qualify for this program as well, for school-age children. Once this does end, this program is slated to end in December 2020. There is a mechanism to continue some of this support through 2021 and beyond. That's the Lifeline program that Minette already did the work to qualify for, and that goes toward subsidizing internet and phone connectivity for households with underprivileged children. So please do reach out. There is both immediate and ongoing assistance available, and that continues to be important, as many of us, children included, have to navigate telecommuting.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I will report from the school district. I think we are up to about 20 families who are either connected or in the pipeline to connect with that. Those do have to be students in the central school district. The grant was written specifically for that. So unfortunately, it does not apply to students who are homeschooling or at private schools or public charter schools. They actually have to be an enrolled student in the central school district. The application is very simple. It is available at the school district. Office, which is reachable at 503-838-0030. And someone can help people complete that application in either English or Spanish, and they get in the pipeline within 12 to 24 hours for installation and service. And there will be
which will make grant funds available to Monmouth businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. So we're excited to see that program kind of get out there and help as much as it can help. Also, and that's all I have that I was going to mention regarding COVID. I do want to say that the in quote term sheet related to the $4 million loan that the Urban Renewal Agency is soliciting, that is currently out, and it has a due date for banks to respond by October 14th with a close at the end of the month. So hopefully expect something at your November meeting with that successful placement. And I also, and I do want to really compliment Janet Chenard for the work she's done on that, working with the financial advisors, bond counsel, the underwriters. It's, just monitoring the emails going back and forth is, you can just, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so.
Been there.
Yeah, she's, especially during audit time. So the auditors have been in over the past week or so, and with both of those happening at the same time, it's she's really doing a great job keeping up. And the last thing I will mention is the city is in the process of filling some vacancies. So if you remember, the FY21 budget provided for a new water system specialist to start sometime after January, and the Public Works Department will be out preparing that notice to go out. And a reminder that the Community Development Department has a advertisement is currently out for a associate planner to come in and provide some needed relief with Suzanne in the Community and Economic Development Department. And I will mention that the Monmouth Police Department's vacancy that currently exists has been filled, and that's Darian Hanfield, who's officially is on the job and will be reporting to the academy pretty soon. And then with the holidays, there will be a break, and then he'll come back. So we're all excited for Darian to come to Monmouth. And I'll also mention that the Senior Center Director, Barbara Hogan, although she's hyphenated now, and
Hogan Cronin.
I apologize, I couldn't remember that. So she will be taking some leave for a few months, and Steve Milligan has agreed to step in and provide some coverage. So we'll be bringing him mostly to make sure that we have a presence at the senior center, since there's no programs that are currently active. He'll just kind of be the face there. And obviously Steve is well-versed in the senior center. So he'll be hired through a temp agency, and but you know, we're working that out right now. So we're excited to have Steve come in and do that, because he is such a great resource for the senior center. And that's all I have, unless there's questions from the council.
Seeing none. We will move to citizen comments. And so Leslie, if you'd like to join us up here at this computer. And Leslie has some guests with her. I've been introduced to them by email, so
We have,
excited
yeah.
to meet them
Thank
in
you,
person.
Madam Mayor, for responding to my email. I randomly ran into an individual who may or may not be on this committee, and she encouraged us on Saturday to come down and just kind of voice where we are. So my name is Leslie Lloyd. Oh, it says we're muted. Is that okay? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we're actually,
You're still-
you're
okay.
speaking through these.
Okay.
Yeah, the microphone.
Perfect. Oops, I just lost my. Thank you. So my name is Leslie Lloyd, and this is my daughter Lillian, who's 7, and my other daughter Olive, who's 5, and my husband Dave over there. Me and Dave have tried really hard to instill a love of reading and of learning. The library being closed has made it really difficult for my girls to find new books. It's very hard for a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old to browse the library electronically. Additionally, when we find a book, the limited days, varied hours, makes it really hard for a parent who has to work at home and teach 2 children at NES. Only 1 day a week is open past 5 p.m. and then and the pickup is only until 6. Our request today is that you would consider reopening the library. The library is a place where people naturally social distance themselves. Even if the city can't reopen regular hours, perhaps staggered or evening hours and weekend hours may be more appropriate. If consignment stores, bars, coffee shops, and gyms can be open, we can find a way to open our library. The Dallas Library is open, and I called and spoke with Mitch there this morning. They have reduced some of their hours. For example, they are only open until 5 p.m. now instead of 7, and they are still open Saturdays from 10 to 2. They have removed all seating areas except to accommodate for ADA compliance. There is no computer usage and no common items such as toys. They do have 1 computer for catalog search, and that is cleaned between each user. They have a very strict mask policy. We ask that these measures be looked into and hours adjusted to accommodate the community in a way that moves us 1 step closer to supporting our children and our families. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Leslie. And I was able to share that, in fact, the school libraries will be opening hopefully this week. So we know how much that service is missed. It's not going to be much different. There won't be able to be that browsing and hanging around the cool librarians. But I did mention to Chad, and do you want to go ahead? We don't typically respond, but in this case, I think it really is.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just kind of, this came up just to myself. I'm not saying I talked to the librarian about it, but recognizing I have been telling the council that the COVID, we're probably in just a holding pattern for the next 6 months. And While I don't think there's anything we can do regarding like the senior center programs, I think there is something that we can do with the library services. And I just really appreciate the prompt of coming in and saying that, because we do understand the need to the community, especially with the young people.
Well, and I'll just add one little thing. Today, we actually made it. We called 3 different times. I finally made it to the library to pick our books today. Unfortunately, Lillian, and I asked her if I could share this. Her books were not in, and I wasn't aware of that. And so it was only her sister's books that were in. And when children are already online for school and things aren't going the way that they want to in school anyways, she just broke down because her books weren't there. And then we couldn't go in the library. And it was a whole probably like 10-minute crying, upset, just a really difficult situation where I feel like we could make accommodations to allow our children just to go in and look at books. And I only say that because our children are already stressed as it is. And so having some of those normalcies for their little lives would really be huge for what they experience daily. So,
I couldn't agree with you more. I appreciate that.
thank you. We appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you. Wave in the camera here. They'll see you over here.
Yeah,
I'll wave over in this computer.
show her that.
Yeah,
You
wave
can
in there.
wave in there. There
Yeah.
you go.
Hi, Lillian and Olive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Phyllis, were there any comments online?
Mayor Coons, there were no comments.
All right. Thank you very much. That moves us to our business agenda. I did see one other citizen in the audience online, and that is actually Marty Wine, who's another topic of business this evening. So I just wanted to recognize that Marty is with us on the call this evening for those
So
who hadn't
council, just remember that and behave yourself.
That's right. We don't want her to know how rowdy we are. All right. So to that business agenda, our first item is a resolution, and I assume that, yes, indeed, Mr. Cooper, our Public Works Director, will be presenting this to us. Hey, Russ.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hope my volume is better this week.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Good. Yes, what I have before you in the staff report is Resolution 1909, a resolution allowing for the installation of a stop sign and the enforcement of that stop sign at the intersection of Edwards Road and Ash Creek Drive. The developer constructing Edwards Addition Phase 8 is nearing completion, and this new intersection expands the city's transportation network, and it provides us an opportunity to approve or enact some traffic control. What's being proposed is a stop sign be installed to stop traffic that's traveling southbound on Edwards Road prior to it turning onto Ash Creek Drive. If you recall, council enacts resolutions that permit for the installation and enforcement of stop signs. Both myself and Police Chief Talon have reviewed and agreed with the proposed location of this stop sign. Financial implications: the developer pays for the initial installation of the stop sign, and then Public Works Department will maintain it from there moving forward. Council's alternatives that were offered would be to adopt Resolution 1909, approving the installation and enforcement of this stop sign, or you can choose to take no action and leave that intersection uncontrolled. I've provided a proposed motion in my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you.
I can make that motion.
Thank you, Councilor
And
Shermer.
Russ, if you need a stop sign, you can come get the one in front of my house because nobody ever uses it. All right, I move that the Monmouth City Council adopt resolution number 1909, allowing for the installation and enforcement of a stop sign at the intersection of Edwards Road and Ash Creek Drive East.
Second.
Counselor Schinkel, Counselor Sharma for the motion, and Counselor Schinkel for the second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Roll
Aye.
call. Cease.
Yes.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call resolution. Oh, I forgot. I have to sign it. So fancy. Thank you, Phyllis. Sorry.
You're welcome. Counselor Carey.
Aye.
Counselor Silbernagel.
Aye.
Counselor Lopez.
Aye.
Counselor Sharma. Yes. Counselor Belts.
Yes.
Counselor Schinkel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ, very much. And resolution number 1909 enacted. So moving on, we have a very important topic. I am very pleased to present this to you with great thanks, obviously, to all of you for the process that we have gone through to find the best person I can imagine to become the next city manager of Monmouth. And we are, again, pleased to invite her here with us tonight on this call and to announce that pending your approval of this agreement, she will actually be able to join us at the first meeting in November. Marty Line, the city manager of Tigard, has reviewed and agreed to the contract that was in the packet. Thanks so much to Counselor Silbernagel, to Lane Shetterly. And then we did consult with Janet Chenard because she does end up handling a lot of the HR duties for the city. So making sure that things that we were talking about were in line with other agreements and other benefits offered. And I'm just really pleased that we are able to present this to you tonight. We've had a chance to look it over, and we'll certainly entertain any questions of either Janet, Lane, or myself and Darren. Roxanne, did you have a question?
Oh, I don't have a question. I'm just ready to make a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Lane.
if I could just ask, let's augment the motion to include the authorization of the mayor to sign the contract.
Ah, there you go. Whoever. So Roxanne, if you're going to make the motion, you have to.
Just add and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
I move that council approve the attached city manager employment agreement with Martha Wine and, let's see, what was it? Allow the mayor to sign the employment agreement? Is that right?
That'll do.
Okay.
I'll
And
second.
Councilor a second from Councilor Lopez.
That
So-
was Counselor Schinkel seconding.
Oh,
However, I
that's-
certainly support it as well.
Yes, we'd like to take thirds, fourths. Yeah,
Yes.
thank
I
you.
do have one matter of discussion before we move forward with this.
Okay.
In section 3, subsection A, there appears to be a discrepancy. It refers to the percentage, a similar percentage of all other city employees reduction, as opposed to all non-represented city employees. Is that intentional, or perhaps I've misunderstood something? Above in the section, it references all non-represented employees, and the pay increase or decrease is on par with those as opposed to all employees.
Yeah,
Lane?
do you want me to talk about that? Yeah, I think that's not a material distinction. If we had that situation, you would be looking at reductions, opening negotiations for reductions in union contracts as well. Frankly, it's a highly unlikely circumstance, but I think it's more protective of the city manager to include the all employees there. And yeah, I'm satisfied with that as appropriate for the contract.
Okay, if Lane's happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Any other questions or comments?
I would just comment that it was nice to have this in advance. Thank you to Lane and Madam Mayor and Chad and whoever. But to be able to review that with some time was really helpful, and it's a considerably more reasonable contract in terms of making sense than the standard that comes from that organization. So it was good all the way around.
That's what you get when you go to the Shutterly law firm. All right, seeing no further questions nor comments, all in favor of this agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. I will sign as authorized, and we look forward to having Marty with us in person soon enough. So thank you all very much. And now we'll go to the liquor. I'll drink to that. The tap station, and it looks like we have Lieutenant Haynes to present that
Yes.
this evening.
Correct. The lieutenant is on to do that.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I'll review the staff report for Drivetown Tap Station. And I will just say that you did a fine job already of kind of going through the details. So you kind of stole my thunder here, but I'll try to fill in the blanks, whatever you missed. So everything looks good as far as the background goes on this. The police department's job is, as we get these the applications, we do the background part of things and present it to the council for either approval or denial or no recommendation. In this case, just some of the details. It's a new business located at 180 Main Street East. This was most recently Windermere. And it was recently renovated, and it will be going through, I believe, some more renovations. They're still doing some work there. The application is for full on-premises sales, so beer, cider, malt beverages, and hard alcohol. There was, as I said, no issues with the background, and the owners of this new business are the owners of Craft Bar West, and there has been no history with Craft Bar West either. So they've done a really good job, and we're happy to have them. So the council has the options now again to make a recommendation for approving a liquor license, make a recommendation to OLCC against the approval, or make no recommendation at all. And I have a proposed motion below. And if there's any further discussion, let me know.
All right. Any questions or concerns? Yes, Byron.
I was just gonna make the motion if that's all right.
Yes.
I move to send OLCC a recommendation in favor of approving a liquor license for Drytown Tap Station.
Second.
Second. Oh,
Good job.
All right, Councillor Schinkel, thank you for the motion, and Councillor Belts Lopez for the second. Any other? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lieutenant. We will forward that on to the OLCC and have them ready for their opening. Thank you. All right, one last piece of business before we switch hats and become the Urban Renewal Agency. Chad.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This matter is a memorandum of understanding with the Polk Regional Collaborative. Diana Satanovich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did well. I was
Yeah.
going to apologize for that.
You did really well.
The Polk County program developer, she informed me that the county was preparing a CDBG housing rehabilitation grant application, which well, that's being done on behalf of the Polk Regional Collaborative. Since 2006, on average, every couple years, the county, on behalf of the collaborative, prepares these grant applications to go out. And there's been quite a number of housing rehab projects that have been completed over the past nearly 15 years now. So when she contacted me, there was a deadline for the application submittal, which was the end of September. And what I did in order to allow them to hit their application deadline was I signed the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and with the intent to bring it back to the City Council for you to ratify my signature. We do believe, and certainly these housing rehabilitation programs are, I think, really needed programs in local communities. And not having any experience with yours, I can certainly speak to a number of programs that I've worked with over the years, the exact same types of programs. So I think they're really beneficial to your local community. So with that, I really don't have anything else to add. It's the Monmouth has been participating with this program for the past 14 years, and I'm presenting it to you to ratify the signature that I provided the county.
Okay, any questions about this one? We've, when I was on council before, we've had presentations about this. And yes, again, Monmouth has served as a fiscal sponsor for these, and we've worked closely with this organization to make sure we had low-cost housing as much as possible and moderate income housing in the county. So I believe it is good that we are moving forward with this MOU. And unless there are other questions or concerns, I would entertain a motion. John, Carrie.
Really not a overly substantive one, but as I was reading it, I recall it, that we've dealt with this before. We've been the fiscal agent, as you noted, Madam Mayor, but I guess I've got a number of questions, and at some point it would be good to have a presentation from them in terms of, exactly what it is they're doing with that, what the publicity on it is. I see there are 26 potential grantees queued up. Pod program. I'm just not familiar with how we are getting the word out. It's not, again, substantive, but I think if we could promote it further to Monmouth residents, and maybe we're doing a great job. I don't know.
Thank you, Councilor Carey. I believe this one is being submitted on behalf of the city of Dallas. Do you remember, Suzanne?
Yeah, it rotates between.
Yeah. So usually what happens is over the years, each community gets its opportunity to turn in an application, and those funds are specific to. Oh, it can.
This is all of, it's
Oh, okay.
anywhere in Polk County.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So, but I think maybe if it's been a while to have Diana come in and do a presentation about the program. So, I can't speak to how they put out the notice of the program, but it sounds like they have kind of pre-qualified homeowners.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think it'd be maybe a good idea to invite Diana. I've seen her presentation several times on this. She does a compelling presentation, very competent, and I think would be a good person to answer the questions that Councilor Carey has.
Yeah, absolutely. We will schedule that. All right, motion, please. John?
I move that the council approve the attached memorandum of understanding for the Polk Regional Collaborative.
And I will second that. Too late.
Thank you, Councilor Sharma. Councilor Carey for the
Always
motion. Councilor
jumping in
Sharma.
ahead of me.
That's right. All right, and unless there are any additional questions or comments, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, seeing, hearing none, we will, we do certainly thank you, Jan, for taking care of that for them. Yeah, that is an important partnership, and
Yeah.
we're glad to be able to sign off on it. So,
Thank you. And I'll contact Diana and get something set up.
perfect. So are there any council comments before we adjourn to the Urban Renewal Agency meeting? Roxanne?
I just wanted to let you know that the Trolley Planning Committee or Monmouth Independence Transportation Committee has been moving forward. The consultant, we've been meeting with them, and they've developed a survey to send out, which is part of our how we're going to determine if this is feasible or not and what the community feels about it. And so stay tuned. The survey is not done yet, but when it is, I want to make sure all of you get it and all of you get an opportunity to take the survey, and we get it out to as many Monmouth Independence residents and people that are, stakeholders as we can. So stay tuned.
Great, thank you. Also, next week is the first ever virtual League of Oregon Cities Conference. I think Councilor Beltz and I are the only ones signed up, but it may not be too late if you did want to participate in that. And you can actually go online and register, or Phyllis can help you with that. But some really good topics and very timely and interesting information as always. And Phyllis.
So I was told that people could register up till the day before.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the very reasonable price this year and without the travel and the hotel, if as much as you can get out of the conference, I think it will be extraordinarily valuable. So yes, Roxanne.
Well, and what's so nice about this one, as opposed to normal, we would all have to take 2 days off of work and all of that. I've already told my director, I've said, I'll be, going in and out of these conference sessions. And so I'll be able to work and do some of the conference sessions. So I don't have to take 2 full days off. And so my company wins and I win. So it's a good opportunity if, normally taking a couple vacation days for work is something that would be a challenge.
All right. No other announcements or comments. Chris.
Madam Mayor? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a comment about an experience that I had this past week. I went out and participated in the demonstrations done on 99 and Main this past week, and there was a large group, both the Black Lives Matter group and the TFU group were there and demonstrating concurrently. And when we see these difficult things going on across the nation, and even closer to home, I've heard some troubling things that have happened with different ideologies clashing in Bend and even closer in Salem. I'm really proud of our community for keeping these these interactions civil, educational, and most importantly, safe for everyone demonstrating. And I just wanted to thank everyone that I spoke with that day. I spent a lot of time walking from corner to corner, speaking with individuals from both sides of the aisle, and wanted to urge everyone to continue to put safety first, and to as we find a way forward as a unified community. And that's all I have about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Darren Silvernagle.
Hey, one more quick one, and that is we've got a couple hundred food boxes on Friday that'll be available between, and I'm guessing it's going to be about between 11 and 1. So we'll see when the truck gets there, but if they're free food boxes for anybody that needs them. St. Patrick's Church, Independence.
Great. Thank you. Yep, lots of resources still available to help our neighbors and folks in need. So that's great. All right. And with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
Move to adjourn.
And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, we will adjourn, and we will reconvene as the Urban Renewal Agency. And I think I'm just gonna zoom ahead. We might take a break in a few minutes, but we do have our architects on the phone. And so I think we'll go ahead and at least get through their presentation unless there are objections to that. All right, I would like to call to order the Tuesday, October 6th meeting of the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency. And roll call, please, Phyllis.
Mr. Carey,
Sure.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Dr. Sharmer,
Here.
Mr. Schinkel,
Here.
Mr. Silbernagle,
Here.
Ms. Belts,
Here.
Ms. Coons.
I am here. Citizen comments. We don't have anyone here in the room. Was anything submitted, Phyllis, or anyone indicating they would like to speak to the Urban Renewal Agency?
No, there was not.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the consent calendar, and in your packet were the minutes of the Urban Renewal Agency meeting of September 15th. So we had a regular session then, and I would entertain any corrections or additions or a motion to approve.
I move approval as written.
Thank you, Mr. Silbernagle. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Belts. And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. So that will bring us to, in fact, our business agenda. Chad.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize for that. The board of directors and the chair. Let's see. So this is a project we've been working on since last spring, and we did contract with FFA Architects to perform the design, the construction documents, and the cost estimates to convert or redevelop the Oddfellows building, IOOF, from its past use, which I believe that was the hardware store was in there, and it's been most recently, and it's been sitting vacant for the last probably couple years. So we contracted with FFA to investigate the redevelopment of the first floor area to a restaurant, kind of a food and beverage and gathering place, entertainment venue type of setup. So FFA has reached the point that they are ready to present the draft design and the cost estimates. And Joe is here. Everybody knows Joe from past work that we've been doing, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the project and seeing what the agency sees, if there's a desire to move forward with the project.
Great. Hey, everybody. So I think what I'll do is been made the presenter. Okay. Okay. All right. So before I get into the drawings, I'm just going to give a brief overview of the project and then walk through the areas of work on the drawings and wrap up with a little overview of the rough order of magnitude cost that we put together, and then I can answer any questions. So basically, as Chad mentioned, our scope of work here is to look at this. It's just under 3,000 square foot of space for tenant improvement. The goal here being a sort of vanilla shell TI. It'd be a flexible space for a new tenant to come in with a restaurant, and for the most flexibility and sort of desired tenants here, we're sort of aiming for a middle-end restaurant, and that just comes into play with how the kitchen works and equipment and stuff in there. So this space had a couple code compliance issues, accessibility as well. So those are part of what we had to address. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so can you all see the plan on the screen? Yeah, okay. So starting in the front of the space, these chairs and tables are just for sort of just like counting numbers of counting heads for occupants purposes. Not really. This isn't designed, and that would be the job of the tenant anyway. But so what this dining room and the bar up front, bar along here, this is Main Street to the north. So what this tells us is that we're looking at an occupant load of between 50 and 100 people, which affects our egress and things like that. So dining room up front. There will be minimal work here. The bar is for this project, we are locating the bar, but not designing the casework, countertop, the die wall, and whatnot, but locating plumbing and electrical up here for rough-in for the eventual tenant. We have one corridor circulation to the back down the center here. Then we have a kitchen. So these are all new walls around the kitchen, and it was designed this way to have easy flow into the kitchen, where the people carrying trays of food don't have to bump into people in the hallway, and vice versa, and there aren't doors opening into people's way. So in the kitchen, we have this side would be hot equipment. This is where you would have grills and things of that nature, ovens. Also, you'd have your hood here, hood vent. I'll talk about in a second. This side is more prep and cold cold assembly and storage, and then you have some tables in the middle as well. And just of note, I don't know how many of you have been in this space, but there's a row of clear stories above here. So we want to keep that open and keep that light getting into the space. So that came into play in designing the kitchen. So that light will be here, and then above the hot side, we will have hood vent, or we'll have roughed in for the hood vent. So that will have the rough in and then the venting through the building. So that will continue upstairs into the Oddfellows hall upstairs, and then through the roof. And there were some different options as far as how to route this, but this is by far the best one. And the Oddfellows folks said that this is an okay way to go. So moving to the back, this second egress door here is necessary. So this door will take a bit of work to get it to function properly, but it needs to swing outward and not swing over the public right-of-way sidewalk here. So we're proposing this little alcove, and the floor level in the building here is a couple inches higher than the sidewalk. So we'll need to ramp down a slight bit and just shave off a little bit of the concrete here. So we have a ramp, doors will swing the opposite direction with a little alcove. In the back of the space, these two restrooms exist already. They are ADA sized. The doors are not in the appropriate place for accessibility, so those will have to be moved. But other than that, they are sort of ready to go. They have an awkward configuration with the toilet directly facing the sink. It wouldn't be the best way to do it. So it would be nice to rotate those as they're drawn here, but that's something we can work out later. So this storage here would be either a walk-in or just reach-in storage. Office here gets a new door and a wall from the storage, and this is for sort of operations of the restaurant, a little office, and also lockers and things of that nature. And the south end of the building here, there is a small alley, so trash and grease collection and things of that nature are out here, and we'll be punching through the wall in a few places on this wall for various equipment that's in the alley and venting and things like that. So let's see. So that's about it for the floor plan design. And so the challenging part of the work, so we have a kitchen consultant on board, and the challenging part of the work here is coordinating the kitchen consultant. Is putting together a list with cut sheets of the type of equipment that someone renting this wood space would have in the kitchen. So that includes just, a burner, everything from sinks to ovens to all the equipment in the kitchen and the bar. And then, so then she gives that to our plumbing and engineering, plumbing and electrical engineer, who are then can know what we need as far as soil, drains, that is, and water. And those things also are with health department requirements in mind. You need a bunch of different sinks and things like that. So so between those two and then FFA, we will oversee all of the things that need to go into the kitchen to get that working properly. The biggest part of that will be trenching through the concrete floor from. We'll need to start the bar up here and pick up some drains in the kitchen and connect back here in this relatively small space that we have where the sewer runs underneath the restrooms and this office back here. So trench through, connect that. As far as air, the hood sucks a bunch of air out of the kitchen, so that the air needs to be replaced. And the best, easiest place for that would be just above the door here. There could be an intake, and that could supply that recirc air back to the kitchen. There's currently some HVAC equipment above the restrooms, but it according to the engineer, it's not appropriate for the space. So we're looking at putting the HVAC equipment above, well, in the same spot. But so then the duct for that would come down this corridor here and split out to the sides. I think there are 2 trunks into this dining room, and then there's one that goes over the bar here. So that's essentially it. There are some things that need to be done outside of the building. A new gas meter, which would come from the east side of the building. I think the gas is over there, and then through the alley. The water is off this corner of the building. Would need a new line for that. I forget the size of it, but oops. Let's see plans. And yeah, that's about it for the layout of the space. So we have other plans that are we have interior elevations, RCP, we have all the code sheets, but this sort of gives you an idea of what we're proposing in the space and sort of the work that we're performing right now. And if I can cost estimate. As far as the cost, so this is a ROM cost, in a lot of cases based on square footage. So I can, if we want to circle back and address specific divisions, we can do that. But so the here above the line, we have 145,000, and then contingency, general requirements, and profit overhead get us to just under 200,000. So this is this is for finishes that are with economy in mind, as far as tile, bathroom fixtures, paint, and the floor finish, which would just mean refinishing, taking up all the floor that's there and refinishing the concrete and going with that. Except in the kitchen, it needs a resilient plastic floor, vinyl flooring. And so yeah, that's about all I have as far as walking through the project. Would it be a good time to answer questions, or how do you all want to proceed with this?
Yes, let's see if we have any questions at this point, either about layout, capacity, sort of how this would be done. And you're all tiny, so you have to wave at me. John Carey, Mr. Carey.
One of the things that we had, and I think in the introduction, some of the material we talked about it being possibly a bit of an entertainment venue. I understand that the table layout is strictly for identifying capacity, but were there to be any consideration for that in terms of stage, sound, interior speakers, etc.? Was that considered?
Well, that is a possibility in the future. It has not been considered in this design, and our scope was to design for a restaurant currently. So short answer is no, but it wouldn't be too hard to sort of build for the future as far as that goes, and really just supply some J boxes on the east side of that dining room to make that a possibility in the future. As far as occupant load and things of that nature, it's fairly flexible as far as that goes. You could load quite a few more people in here if you didn't have any tables and chairs. So I think it's pretty flexible in that way.
Councilor Carey, John. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to say, when we started on the project, we did talk about kind of the entertainment venue as well as the food and beverage piece that went into that. We didn't include scope to do anything as far as sound or wiring or stage or anything like that. That would be a specialty type of item, dependent on who the tenant would be looking at it. But certainly looking at the large area where the tables are, that would be the idea, the spot where that type of venue would be available, if the tenant were interested in doing that.
Sure. Sometimes it's important on those, as the walls are that there's a backing and support for things that might be heavy, be it speakers, be it TV screens, who knows? And again, that's hard without knowing the tenant. So I get that, and that's okay. All right, now, Joe, one other thing that you mentioned, and I was making notes when you talked about it, down in the bathroom area on that south side, you indicated that there's an alley there, and there would need to be. I thought I heard you say that there would need to be some sort of, breaks in the wall to get out to, to remove trash, dumpsters, that sort of, to get the dumpsters, grease. I missed where you said that might be installed.
Well, there are kind of two different things there. The dumpsters and the grease are located in that alley towards the street, but so access to those would just be through that back door there. Where we would go through the wall, it's would be in the bathrooms, and it would be easiest. There used to be windows there, so it's sort of boarded off. But we'll need vents for the bathrooms, and also to run refrigerant lines to the AC unit, which is going to be in the alley. So just sort of minorly invasive holes through the wall there. It's not a big problem, but
Yeah.
all the things that we have to do in that small space just kind of requires a bit of coordination.
Is there a requirement in that alley to have those dumpsters shielded in any way? Or are they okay?
I don't.
I mean,
I don't know of any. They're a little unsightly, maybe to some. I don't know if there are requirements as far as that goes.
yeah.
Requirements,
Okay.
John.
Suzanne
Pardon?
says yes.
Yes, there are, or
Yes, yes. Suzanne answered and said, yes, there's screening requirements for the dumpsters.
Okay.
and we've got enough room in that alley for, whatever kind of traffic goes through there for a screened dumpster deal.
Yeah, the alley, excuse me, Joe, I'll just answer that. The alley is not a traditional alley that you would think of. It's a kind of more of a breezeway between the south side of the building, and then there's another shop or building next to that. So it's narrow. It's not a drivable alley. It has a fire escape for the upstairs of the building, but it's probably no more than 10 to 15 feet wide, I guess.
I think it's less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're picturing, it's not like the blocks to the west of it where, having an actual alley, it's really what used to be the old auto shop, PCL storage spot there.
And then final.
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
Well, final for me, I want to make sure that I'm clear. We're talking just a little under 200,000, and we have not gotten to the FF&E portion of this, equipment and fixtures, furnishings, and so forth. Is that correct?
Sort of. This is for that cost is for fixtures as far as in the bathroom, in the bathrooms, but and then finishes throughout the space. So finished concrete floor, white painted walls. All the new walls will be have gyp board and be painted. New doors, interior doors where need be. There's signage as far as exit signs and things of that nature. What's not in this cost is kitchen equipment. So that's typically brought in by the tenant, and the bar. And again, a lot of times the tenant is doing things at the bar specific to their program. So those things would come later. And I do have, let's see, sorry, if you bear with me for just a second, the 250,000 is the cost that the 250,000 is the ballpark cost that the kitchen consultant thinks that the leasee would bear to put the equipment in the kitchen, and then 32,000 for the bar, and that's That's sinks, grills, ice machine, dishwashing machine, surfaces, things of that nature.
Thank you.
So my favorite pet peeve about dining, and that is I'm not remembering the ceiling height in this place, and if this is going to be open with the ducting and stuff for sound dampening. I'm not good enough at reading the specs here.
Well, this is going to be open for it's for one thing more cost effective, but also just to sort of be that utilitarian space where the tenant can do something else if they want. But so this general lighting is provided, which would just be LED linear fixtures, and then you're going to have ductwork above. But so the well, it doesn't have a height on here, but the ceilings are at a little bit over 10 feet, between 10 and 11 feet. So in the space, you do have this datum that goes around. You have a row of windows on the front and also the side there, as I mentioned. So there's a little shelf that I think they furred out the wall and insulated the masonry wall that's there. So that continues around the space, and yeah, so you'll see ductwork and things like that coming through at the ceiling.
Okay. Other questions for Joe? All right. Seeing none. So we do have that, I don't know, what do we have? That's it. Just that update.
Yeah, so the intent was is for FFA to provide an update so you could get a look at the layout. There's been, quite a bit of discussion has gone as far as the layout goes. Surprisingly, it's been about the bathrooms and the bar, where it's going to be exactly, and the hood, trying to find a good spot for the hood to exit downstairs. And does it go through a wall and up the wall and back over, or up, straight up and through? So the intent is just to brief the council on the agency on the kind of what the layout looks like. You get a look at the cost estimate, and then I guess the one question I have for Joe before I say what I think the next step is. So Joe, given where we are right now, what more work do you have to do for the council, or the agency is going to need to decide whether to go or stop at some point? How much more is there to do before you think we're at a good point? And a lot of that will have to do with the cost estimates.
Well, so I think the design of the space is finished, but the coordination of the HVAC and plumbing and electrical is sort of just begun. So there is some, I would say 2 to 4 weeks of coordination between those folks. I wasn't able to get an exact target on that because the main engineer is out till tomorrow. He's been out for a week, but so at that point we would have the complete drawings. We have draft drawings from the MEP folks. Have those, and then the kitchen equipment picked out, and those will come back around to our reflective ceiling plans and affect ceiling heights in some cases. But since it's open, you're gonna see the equipment up there in most cases. But it will affect how the hood connects up there at that wall. So the short answer is in a month at the latest, we would have a complete set for bidding, but probably sooner.
So I think, so for the agency to decide if they want to move forward on the project or not, the construction drawings are probably less important than just to have a good sense of the cost estimates. So the estimates, and then probably also it would be desirable to have a good estimate or a range of what the kitchen, so the stove, all of any stainless steel, the dishwasher, the fridge or walk-in, all of those materials. So the agency has an idea, even if those are considered normally tenant cost items. I think it would be good to have some range of what that looks like. So I guess, next steps look like a report back at the
Next,
either depending on
how soon,
but it could be at the next the October 20th meeting or the first or second meeting for sure in November.
Okay.
Byron has a question.
Byron Schinkel.
I was trying to look through my notes, trying to find what our estimate was coming into this. Where does anybody remember that? I want to say we were thinking $60,000-$70,000 or something like that. What number were we tossing around? I'm trying to remember, and I couldn't find it in my notes.
I don't remember I don't remember putting out a number like that. Simply because that's why the agency hired FFA to go through the scope, the layout, and do the cost estimate. 60 or 70,000, probably would get you maybe a used commercial grade stove. So I'm not, again, if I were picking a number in hindsight, I might have said 150. But I don't remember putting a kind of a best guess out there at the beginning.
I think the only thing I remember, Byron, we really talked about was to sort of approve the amount for FFA.
Yeah.
So we did talk that through and committing to have them do this work for us. But I don't remember ever really talking about what the actual build out would be.
That's very possible. I was trying to remember if we were on target here, but I apologize.
I don't think we took a stab at it.
I think the FFA contract was somewhere between 45 and 50,000.
And that might have been where I was remembering a number there.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember is really talking through. So, all right. Well, I'm super excited about, again, this great opportunity for that lovely building. And having been in that building many times as a hardware store, I was really trying to picture how this would work. And I think it's kind of exciting. So will everybody good with getting this last piece of engineering work to really get a good sense of how this will would play out and whether or not this is an investment for the Urban Renewal Agency, and thanking.
Is Chad promising to stay on to manage the whole project?
That's a negatory.
He probably will come back for the grand opening.
I think Marty's still on here somewhere, isn't she?
So, yeah.
Yeah, she's a good project manager.
She is.
All right, no further questions for Joe. We'll let him go and see you either in a couple weeks or a month from now. So
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
thanks
everyone.
for sticking with us, Joe. And speaking of Count backwards from 1930. So we will resume the urban renewal meeting. And speaking of spending urban renewal money, our next item agenda is the capital improvement plan. And again, it should look somewhat familiar. Chad.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and
Good job.
directors. So this is a continuation of the last meeting that we had September 15th, where primarily it's to review the urban renewal capital improvement plan, but specifically as it relates to the City Hall project. And I do appreciate Byron's comment from the last meeting about drinking from a fire hose or from a fire hydrant, something to that effect. So I went back and I said, let's see, if there's a way to kind of streamline this and not combine it up too much, which is what I tried to do for this round of discussion. So it's the same discussion. Basically, the City Hall project came in. Originally, we had a placeholder of $7.5 million. The architect completed their final schematic design, and the cost estimate, as you remember, the price went up to approximately $9 million. So there was about a $1.5 million difference, which in order to move the project forward, we think, we're going to have to look at additional funding options to use in lieu of just relying on a general obligation bond, for example. And I didn't find the design to be elaborate. I mean, there was always, we were conscious of costs related to the project, but at the same time, we did recognize that certain materials, I think, are important to the downtown business districts. So that's why you'll see the use of brick in lieu of some other type of less expensive exterior material, things like that. So what I did for tonight's discussion was to say, let's just concentrate on the Urban Renewal Agency's discussion because nothing really moves forward until you guys finish that, and then allow the council to pivot back over and have the discussion regarding the internal reserves. And we all, just to remind you, we do have a plan in place for that, which started this fiscal year. All of the funds are going to contribute $1 million per year. That's the aggregate total, $1 million per year for fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, and combine that with the existing project reserves, which is approximately $375,000. But we'll set that off to the side, and the council can have discussion about, do they want to change that number? And then the council, of course, will then have to have the discussion about the general obligation bond and what that amount should be. So in this case, I kind of removed all of that from this discussion and just will focus on the agency's contribution to the project. And there's two things before we start that are related to the spreadsheet that I want to mention before we move forward. One is, as the city attorney rightly pointed out, the skate park project, although it's, I think, a desirable project, is not currently eligible for urban renewal funding, so that's been removed from the CIP. We did have approximately $325,000 earmarked for that as basically as a placeholder. So that project was removed, and just to make you aware, if you look at the park system category, that's at the bottom of page 11. And so current projects that we had included the Northeast Regional Park and the Ash Creek Trail project. Both are eligible and I believe are identified by name in the urban renewal plan. So having removed the skate park element, I added two $150,000 lines in fiscal year 24. And that was placed there so the skate park was removed in name. And if the agency is interested in pursuing that project later on, there's funding that's still in the park system category available for that. That's the first thing. The second thing, so, and then having moved that around, there was a little bit of shifting that happened with the option one category for the $1 million. So the intent was still to maintain $1 million or one for option one and $1.4 million for option two. But that there was a little massaging with that number, but it has no substantive impact on any of the discussion. The other thing I wanted to mention is that after listening to the past discussion that you just had, and also thinking about, you know, again, reflecting on this, and there's just a million ways to do this. But you know, looking at where a lot of the reduction occurred in order to help increase the support to the City Hall project, a lot of that fell onto the last category that you would see on page 12, which is community development facilities. So the downtown redevelopment projects, the Gateway Arch Economic Development Fund, and the lighting and display. So those were affected more significantly than other categories. And the reason for that is, as I explained last time, I was being protective of brick and mortar projects, water, sewer, power, transportation, and looking more towards those categories. So over the past week, I've continued to reflect on that. And while I don't think it's going to change the discussion $1 million or $1.4 million, because the agency will be able to move these dollar amounts around as you move forward. But I think if I were able to go back a week or two, I probably would rely more on the park systems to help support the City Hall project. And so I would increase those amounts. And if you look at it, there's $900,000 available in that category. And in the first option, there's $375,000 that is being earmarked towards the City Hall project. Well, I would probably, even if we, I would be looking to maybe move more of the park money over towards either the City Hall project, to the City Hall project, in order to relieve some pressure that was being placed on the downtown redevelopment project line and the economic development fund. So, and the reason for that is, first off, there's, given the magnitude of the park projects, with the exception of the skate park, there's really, those were just due diligence figures that were being provided to do studies, some engineering, environmental work, and different things like that. They're big projects. What I thought was important originally last summer was to provide some capacity to initiate those projects, probably all of the pre-development work and not any of the construction work. But in hindsight, I think I would move more of that money over into your downtown redevelopment and your economic development funds and have more money there. And the reason for that is I think that you have more opportunities for redevelopment activities in the downtown business district and on Highway 99. So, for example, the Oddfellows building, you can see, is going to be a pretty big project. But you have other projects, and Monmouth Commons, we recently did, as you did with the Ash Creek Station project. And reflecting on some of the discussion the council had during your goal setting session, obviously there's the Brant Sanitary that's out on the highway and some other sites, and certainly the industrial area on the south end of town that will probably need some additional assistance as well. So I think for tonight's discussion, I think we're still talking about option 1 or option 2. But I think if that probably I would resubmit some of where the funding comes from and rely more on the park projects for contributions and less on those economic incentive categories, so that you have more funds to help public-private partnerships and those type of things, if that all makes sense. But I don't think that I just reflecting on it, and I was thinking of that anyway before we received the FFA cost estimates for the Oddfellows building project. But I know you're going to have additional projects over the next 5 years. Yes, sir, Byron.
Thanks for this. This is a lot easier for me to wrap my head around. So thank you. I appreciate that, Chad. So the question, just so I can simplify it even down further, is because of the increase in costs, we're looking for ways to get more, to contribute more money from the UR fund. What is that correct? What we're trying to do?
Yes, that's correct. As
to
one
take
of
the
your
sting
options.
To take the sting out of the sticker shock or whatever. So what's the likelihood if we just, so I have two questions. What's the likelihood if we just add the amount onto the GO bond? I mean, is that going to make a difference in generally in whether voters approve it or not? And so I'll let you address that.
So again, going back to originally, the reason it got pretty dense at the last meeting is because you have 3 pretty significant areas that you can look at for funding the project. And urban renewal is one. We knew it was going to be there. We programmed $2.25 million.
Right.
City Hall, or the city reserves, we were looking at $2.25 million. So we were, and then there was the bond amount, and that was kind of treated as the residual. So either the urban renewal contribution or the city reserves, I'm just calling it reserve contribution, both of those are dependent, discretionary to either the city council or the agency. But they all factor into what your general obligation amount will be when you put that out for a vote.
Right.
In my mind, strategically, and admittedly, this is in my mind. I think that because it's such an important project, and when the numbers went up, I think that if you can reduce the general obligation bond's dependence to make that difference up, I think you will stand a better chance of having a successful bond.
Okay.
But certainly the bond, you could not, for example, you could not have this discussion and you could just put it over on the GO bond and increase that amount. And that was one of the options that basically was put forward at the last meeting. I think that, it's a big project. It's eligible in the urban renewal plan. I think that I do believe that the community, because it will be a 20-year type of financing thing, I think that is a need for the community to help finance the project over the term of some bond or loan. But I also think that the agency and the city council does have responsibility to, again, this is me, but does have responsibility to explore all options to try to reduce that amount as much as you can.
Okay. And then secondly, just to make sure I don't see any of these projects that are actually affected being sort of these essential that the department has a meltdown over not being able to do on a pretty quick timeline. Would that be right?
Yes, because again, originally the intent running through it was to try to protect the brick and mortar projects. So
right.
The water, the sewer weren't impacted at all. The transportation pieces were fairly minimal amounts. The Hoffman Road bike ped improvements, that's another pretty large project that hasn't really started yet. So the amount there was more for pre-development work prior to construction. So I thought that that would be kind of a wouldn't hurt. It's not related to brick and mortar. That was a pre-development number, and it still left half of that. So originally I was programming 200,000 for pre-development work related to that project. The option 1 and option 2 just cut that amount in half. And the downtown corridor, that was $500,000 over the 5 years, and that was reduced only in the second option. So I think your assessment is correct. I think the department, Public Works, Power and Light, would not have any issues with the proposal because it's not targeted towards brick and mortar.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, so we talked about a few of the changes and just trying to kind of separate out some of the discussion that you'll have later as the city council. So now just looking at the options, it's really narrowed the discussion down. The base option is the $2.25 million that is already included in the capital improvement plan. Option 1 would increase that from 2.25 to $3.25 million. And you can see in the highlighted area under option 1 where that would come from. Although, as I mentioned previously, I think I would rework that to have more coming from the park system components and less from the community facilities piece. And then option 2 would increase it from 2.25 to 3.65. And again, it's just an impact that it has on some of the projects. But again, I would still try to, as you can see, still keep the brick and mortar projects whole and just go towards more of the pre-development projects, the parks and the Hoffman Road bike ped project. And even though we think that's an important project, it's just not anywhere close to being ready to move forward with construction. Will probably be dependent on some development out in that area and things like that.
Which we're getting.
Which we are getting. It's going to happen. It just becomes a question of, it's not going to happen in the next 5 years. But having some resources that Public Works can use and the city can use as related to pre-development work, I think is important. But it's just, you can cut that back and use some other resources later on. So that's really the all of my presentation, and the only decision that's being requested from the agency is you can either stay with the original option, the 2.25, go with option 1, which increases it to 3.25, or go with option 2, which increases it to $3.65 million. So you can stand pat or make an increase.
Right. So I think that's really, we are not approving this capital improvement plan per se. We are not committing to exactly which of those little maneuvers would happen. And we still have opportunities to discuss bike ped parks, taking away from the downtown ped improvements. I mean, any of those finessing things we would still be able to do. This is literally how much would we think at this point we would commit out of these urban renewal funds. And like Chad said, the restaurant, the IOOF project comes out of the last category, which is also the category that has City Hall. So planning 500,000 for downtown redevelopment projects, and we looked at about a $200,000 of that going to the work that was presented to us tonight by Joe from FFA, and knowing that perhaps a restaurant owner would come in with a request to assist on the additional 200,000. So those kinds of things are already in here. He now, rather than take 100 out of that and 250 out of the Economic Development Fund, might move that around. We don't have to make that decision tonight.
Right.
We are literally looking at the resolution, which authorizes a capital improvement plan, which includes funding for City Hall and a dollar amount contribution from the Urban Renewal Fund to that City Hall project. So that's all we really have to decide tonight. And I suppose we could actually contribute more from Urban Renewal if we chose. These two, option 1 and option 2, are certainly good considerations for us, but we are not completely bound by them. Although, as Chad says, I think really having the three-legged stool, the balance between some city reserves, which we've not really talked about prior to his and Janet's identification of that, plus some urban renewal money, plus the hopefully some voter support. I think the three-legged stool is a great way to move forward, and would entertain any other thoughts or questions. Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only thought or question here is that I'd like to reiterate previous conversations, both during our planning session, our goal setting session, as well as in our previous conversation about this plan. To accomplish all of the items in this plan as designed is aspirational. Time moves quickly, and I think that going into this, we all kind of had to realize that, gosh, this urban renewal agency has been around for some time, hasn't leveraged much of its weight yet, and hasn't done much. And so now we have a very short amount of time to get as much out as possible. And I personally feel that, this, it would be difficult to accomplish all of these programs within the time allotted. And so I am comfortable with increasing the urban renewal contribution to the City Hall project. To make that GO bond, that third leg, it's still important, but to make it more palatable to the voters.
Great. Other comments? John?
I would concur with Chris's thoughts. My interest really is doing what we can to minimize the general obligation bond. Now, I don't know whether it's going to be, if it's under 3 million or if it's a crack over 3 million. I'm not sure, what the tipping point on that is. But I think if we can make the case that we've done all we can to minimize that, our chances are better in terms of credibility with the voter. I would like to not extend. My own feeling is I'm really not interested in expanding on the city's contribution in terms of the different reserves from the departments, including the general fund, because as we've noted, we make a case for our rates are set based on what we need to have to operate the systems, and And, if we were to go too deep in terms of raising money for the City Hall project relative to rate increases, I think we would lose credibility there. So I'm for maxing it out. I'm for option 2, the 3.65 million. If you couple that with the 2.37 million that we think we're going to have, that we have budgeted for our reserves, that puts us over 6 million, and we've got to, the remainder is going to have to be backfilled with an general obligation bond of under 3 million. Regarding the projects that are listed here, I concur with Madam Chair and Chad that we really need to have a discussion about this. I think we need to take some time to look into the actual document that lays out the agency and the goals of the agency. And see, I've been trying to, and my eyes are getting smaller, but I've been trying to index, each of the expenditures on the spreadsheet to our goals. And I can do that. I'm not sure that the goals or the way we're getting to those goals with a spreadsheet are what I would personally do. But that's a conversation I think that we ought to have once we become more familiar with all of the obligations. And are these our top priorities? They very well may be, but we really haven't had the discussion, and we're on a compressed time frame. I get that. But we've got time to decide how we want to best utilize the dollars that we have. I think it's an excellent start, but I think that we all need to familiarize ourselves, and maybe everybody's familiar with it, and I'm the only one. But, I learned a lot of things about the agency and the goals and what they were trying to accomplish 15 years ago. And so I think there's more to come. I think the more we can get into this project, the better. It's been on our radar since you were on council, and Darren was a young pup when we first started putting that as an objective. Find a way to replace City Hall. Here it is. Let's go with it.
Yeah. The first stab at City Hall was way before I was on council. So, Byron.
I agree with John and Chris. I think if we maximize, the contribution that the agency can provide, that's my thought as well. On that note, I do have a question as far as, we're out looking for that $4 million loan. What's the possibility that gets increased, that we can use even more money at some point, maybe later if we authorize an additional loan? How does that work, Chad or Janet? Because my understanding is we still have some more cushion room in the max that we can take out. Is that correct?
Well, Janet, go ahead.
Hi, Janet. We can't hear. No. Oh, she's trying to call it. She maybe was called in and hung up, but yeah, there's more bonding authority, Byron. You're right, but more bond authority, debt authority.
There is, but we've
got to
just
a part of this, right?
Me, if I use my computer audio?
Yes,
Yes?
we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry. I just hung up my phone. That was brilliant. So in answer to your question, Byron, the loan itself is not necessarily the limiting factor. Yes, we will probably seek another $4 million. which will be backed by the TIF, and we can use those proceeds for any of the projects that are the brick and mortar projects, which this one would be. The more the limiting factor is which projects you don't want to do within the context of your overall CIP. And so, yes, if we're not getting some of those projects done, you could say, well, yes, let's use some of that funding for City Hall. But again, it's going to be a kind of a timing challenge as far as, you know, we're going to, if we go forward with a GO bond and we say, you know, and it's approved by voters, then probably what you'd be you'd have to have that in place by next May. So there's that challenge. And so then what you'd be displacing would be the city reserves, which is also not a bad thing to do from the standpoint of then that wouldn't affect rates necessarily as much, which is the plus of not using as much of the reserves. But again, you're back to the CIP project choice. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, and we can always choose to get more or less, right, in the future of this. That is always going to be a choice for us, but authorizing this resolution where we would say contributing, and I'm hearing a little bit of movement towards the $1.4 million or total, because we need to do the total.
Option 2, yeah, right. The total would be 3.65.
Cease, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Following the conversation and back to Mr. Carey's comments, and I think what I heard from Mr. Schenkel, and maybe Mr. Lopez as well. Do I hear something about going ahead now and authorizing the City Hall contribution, but deferring action on the balance of the CIP? I'm not sure if that's what I heard, but I'm trying to understand what the action going forward would be.
Blaine, you referenced me first, and so you know my hope is that we can authorize the $3.64 or $65 million to go towards the City Hall project.
Yes.
And then while the other items are in effect authorized, we're not going to line item authorize those. We need to come back and revisit whether these are the ones that we actually want to do, the priorities that we would want to have, and there may be additionals that are not listed on the list. Now, is that a problem?
No, I'm just wondering then in that case, if I need to come back with a trimmed down version of this resolution that really addresses action on the City Hall contribution, we bifurcate this basically then, and maybe bring that resolution back next meeting to give you time, if you want to spend more time before you bless the CIP. See, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Do we need to separate these two actions? Right now, they're combined into one resolution where you're authorizing the contribution to City Hall and you are approving the CIP. And I'm not sure, as I'm hearing the conversation, that's what you want to do.
Can I make a comment along that line? So, because it does depend on what you want to do, and I'll just point out that all of the projects that are listed here were put together by your department heads. So Russ developed his, Chuck developed his, Suzanne and I worked on some of these things. So these are projects that, you know, we went through and put together specifically, partly keeping in mind that any water project puts less pressure on rate increases in the future, for example. Second thing is, if you look at FY21, these are immediate projects that we're preparing to do. So, and for example, if you look at the Main Street water line, that's related to the Monmouth Commons project. While the developer hasn't completed the development agreement yet, we still anticipate that project moving forward within the next 2 or 3 months. most of these, and certainly, as you saw in my report, Public Works is working on the well field, and some of these projects are just, they're moving forward. They're approved in the budget, the city budget, as well as being some of the funding being contributed to by the Urban Renewal Agency. I think, and John and I had some discussions about this. I think what I have heard is the desire to come back and spend more time looking at each of the line items per se. I did, at least in passing, say, well, the CIP is not fixed. You can add and subtract projects to it over time, and you certainly can change amounts as projects are scoped and bid. These are numbers that could go up and down on a project by project basis. And at the end of that, you will make a decision to move money towards a project or move money savings from a project to another area. And for example, while I think the skate park project is a council priority, it's, if you want to do the project, you're going to have to amend the urban renewal district boundary as well as, add it back into the CIP. So I guess what I'm saying is I would be hesitant towards, at this point, just because there's some questions, down on a project by project basis, I would be hesitant to change up too much the plan as far as the resolution goes. I mean, the CIP is just the CIP. You're going to say, we want to move some money around. If it's 1.6 or $1.4 million, we'll put it over towards the project. Here's the sample of how you can do it. You can revisit that and say, I'd rather take it from here than from there. And the resolution is just to point out, and Lane, correct me if I'm wrong on this. The resolution is just to identify the findings related to the City Hall project and the amount contribution towards the project.
No, it does say that by adopting this, the findings include the capital improvement plan attached here to as Exhibit 1 is hereby approved.
Right.
And the projects and expenditures set forth are hereby authorized, basically authorizing the city manager to make adjustments to the projects and expenditures as set forth. Doesn't stop us from changing them, but it does include basically authorizing the plan. So we would be accepting this plan as in general, but we always can move stuff around. That they're not going to go out and spend, Chad's not going to go out and spend the whole thing before Marty gets here. So there's absolutely no concern in my mind about going ahead and doing the resolution as is, Lane, which does include authorizing this plan.
And plus the section 3 that you're looking at, the last sentence says the city manager shall report such adjustments to the agency board of directors.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not arguing again. I was just trying to clarify what I was hearing from John.
Yeah, I may have framed that wrong to begin with. So this does in fact authorize this plan with whatever amount we set aside for City Hall, but it does not set that plan in stone.
Absolutely not. And the intent of developing the plan in the summer and continuing the discussion now was to provide a framework and a direction for the agency to move forward, so that there was some sideboards put together on what projects you're going to pursue over the next 5 years. In terms of a strategic approach to using the urban renewal resources, just to go on a case-by-case basis as a project became of interest, I don't think certainly won't serve you in the long run, as far as spending your resources in the best way possible. But the intent was to just get something on the table in play and then allow the agency over time to work that as you see fit, because you don't know what's going to happen next year or the year after, and you have to have some flexibility to massage the projects and the numbers.
So the motion, which isn't included here, would be to adopt Resolution 38, a resolution authorizing a capital improvement plan, including funding for the construction of Monmouth City Hall in the amount of either 2.25, which would be the base amount, 3.25, which is the option 1, or 3.65, which currently reflects option 2, or some other amount. Chris?
Madam Chair, are you looking for a motion?
I am, and then we can have additional discussion if necessary.
Fabulous. I'm happy to make that motion. I move that the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency approve resolution number 38, authorizing a capital improvement plan, including funding for the construction of Monmouth City Hall in the amount of $3.65 million.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm giving that one to Darren. He's been around this longer than anyone. Okay, so now any additional discussion, questions?
I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with the explanations that we've been given regarding our flexibility, and look forward to the agency having a robust discussion on some of the details of this.
Absolutely. Something long overdue. Seeing no other, Phyllis, could you please do a roll call of the agency board?
Ms. Kuntz,
Aye.
Mr. Lopez,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma? No? Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Schinkel?
Yes.
Ms. Belts?
Yes.
Mr. Sobernagel?
Aye.
Passes 6-1.
Thank you so much. And that concludes our business for the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency this evening. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Nice. Byron.
I'd like this body to start the process, or what do we need to do to annex that proposed site for that skate park? Because that is a priority, at least one of my priorities. Can we get the ball rolling? Whether we dump money into it or not, at this point, I'd like to get the ball rolling on adjusting that boundary so it includes the proposed skate park site.
What we can do is report back the steps and everything at your next meeting. What would be required to do a boundary? It would be a minor amendment to the plan to incorporate that. We can report back the steps in 2 weeks and answer that, and then the agency can take whatever action you want to do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Cease, this is Lane. There was an executive session on the agenda. Did that come off?
We were talking about that. I kept hearing if we have one. So I'm sorry I did not do this sooner, but I'm sorry. We do need for the Urban Renewal Agency to meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing real property transaction held pursuant to ORS 192-660-2E, real property transactions, allowing the agency to meet in executive session. Designated staff, members of the news media, or other persons shall be allowed to attend. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. We don't seem to have any members of the media. with us. At the end of executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. It is not anticipated that action will be taken this evening after returning from executive session. So we have our staff here, Suzanne, Chad, Janet left us too. Okay, Darren.
We're not streaming, right?
And we will turn off the streaming.